Hello everyone, myself Pawan Suravanshi and today's date is 8th October. Today we will discuss about the topic of the constructor. In that we will discuss about all of that things that what are the constructor, why we use why we need the constructor in Java and what are the types of constructor and how to declare the constructor and what are the advantages and disadvantages of the constructor. Before that, we will discuss about recap about the object-oriented programming, because in that object-oriented programming only we use the constructor. The constructor in the object-oriented programming, when we create a class, in that we create a constructor also. The constructor is a special type of method in which we can the constructor name is same. The constructor name will be same as the name of the class, and the constructor is doesn't have the return type. The constructor is like that. It doesn't have the return type. It has the parameters. For example, why we need the constructor. In that, we will take a small example. In that, we are creating a class of employees. In that, we are declaring the employee ID and employee name. In that time, what happens means if there are thousands of employees, we have to create the objects of the employee. For the object declaration, in that case, if we have the thousands of employee, in that case we have to create the objects of the thousands of employee and we have to declare the value and it get multiplied, and in that case what happens means the code getting complex and it acquires the more memory and it doesn't able to clarify what the things are going in that, and it doesn't able to change the objects at the simple. So it is a complex problem. So to solve this problem, we are using the constructor. The constructor doesn't need the return type, and the constructor, when the object is created, in that time the constructor directly calls the object. When the object is initialized, the constructor calls the object. In that case, the constructor, for example, if we create the constructor for the employee class, in that time the constructor will pass the value when the object is initialized only. We can pass the parameters. In that parameters, we can pass the values of the employee ID and the employee name. Every time when the object is created, in that time we can pass the class I of the employee ID and the employee name. So the types of the constructor is about the default constructor, parameterized constructor, and the no argument constructor. First of all, the default constructor. When we develop a program and when we run, in that time the JVM, when it doesn't declare any constructor, in that time the JVM directly declares the constructor. That's called the default constructor only. The default constructor is that when we doesn't clarify then declare a constructor, in that case the in the compile time the default constructor may occur. The no argument constructor is like that only when we doesn't it is a user defined constructor. When the declaration field, the user declaring the constructor. And the next constructor is about the parameterized constructor. The parameterized constructor is having the some types, that is parameter with no return, parameter with return with no parameter, parameter with no return. These are some types of in that what happens means the parameter and the no return means the parameter are having in the constructor, but no return means void void it's doesn't requires any return type. So no return means it's void. In this way the constructor is having the sometimes some types. The use of constructor is this only, that when the code getting the reusable, we can reuse the code in the constructor. Where when the constructor in the constructor we can use the super keyword and this keyword only, because when we use the super keyword, then we can able to extend or get some properties from parent class to subclass, or the parent class to child class is or super class to subclass, and we use this keyword also for the constructor, because when we use this keyword, we can also indicate the values of the upper class to lower class. For this is only the parent class to child class, we can acquire the properties also for the parent class and the child class, and the constructor is having the no return type. When we declare the constructor, in that time we can use the final keyword. For example, our class is like the class animal. In that case, we have to declare a constructor. In that time, when we declare the constructor, we use the access modifier like public and the rat means public rat. It's a sorry, public animal. The animal is the constructor. The name should be same as the class name. And when we initialize the constructor, new constructor, and that time it's are having initialize the constructor, it's using the new keyword only. We can declare initialize the constructor in various ways, but it is the one of way we how we can declare the constructor by using the new, and we doesn't have to create the objects of the constructor, because the constructor is a special type method. It directly access the value when we declare the, or when we initialize the object. In that case, it having the parameters, and in that case, when we initialize the value in the parameter, it directly access to the constructor. In the field of the method overloading and method overriding, in that case also the constructor are very useful, because the concept is also some way dependent on the constructor only.